I caused this.
No, the Fire Nation did.
Because I failed to be the Avatar. How do I do this without causing so much pain?
Aang, this is war. There's going to be losses. There's going to be pain. None of that is your fault.
And the Firebenders aren't giving up. We have to prepare for whatever they throw at us next. And so stop worrying about the past and start thinking about what you still have to do.
Come along with us on an idle ride through the latest science fiction and fantasy shows, movies, and video games. Welcome to Idle Ride. I'm Marcy, your host, and I'm here with my co-host and chosen brother, Paul.
What's up, everyone?
And we also have in the house our close friends, John T. Bowles, producer John, and from Open Pike Night.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
And we're all here to lament together. Well, I don't know how John feels about the show. Maybe he loves it.
Maybe he didn't even watch it. We don't know.
The last and final episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix, episode 8, Legends. So I'm going to preface this with, again, it's mostly from the very last episodes of the animation, The Siege of the North, episodes 1 and 2. I'll let John talk a little bit about how he's been feeling about this season of Avatar.
I have not watched every episode, but I've listened to every episode of Idle Ride. I did watch the last few just to build up to this one. I'm very confused. Now that I saw on Netflix, it said it was renewed for seasons 2 and 3.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like, okay, so we're renewed for seasons 2 and 3, and you guys are making these choices, and just they have burnt so much content from the animation in season 1. It's like, what are you going to do when you get to season 2?
I know. That's what I'm wondering.
And then we get to this one, which might be the most faithful to the animation adaptation of a episode or storyline we've seen yet. I mean, it's pretty close to the finale of season 1.
It is pretty close, but I think they make enough changes that, again, it's not as interesting as the animation, as I say over and over and over again.
Well, it's like, like you guys have been talking about, Zuko's storyline has been great. And then in this one, it's just like, what storyline for Zuko? We're barely going to have him in here. And yeah, it seems like they're making some really weird choices, and maybe they thought they weren't going to get more than one season, so they just thought they'd do as much as they could. But if you're not going to do that, then just bring Toph in the beginning. So who knows? Yeah.
Well, let's get into it a little bit. So I guess the first question I have, which is probably should be the last question, is why the fuck do they call this episode Legends? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, who's the legend?
Yeah. Is the legend the story of the moon and the ocean? Because that's like one legend. They tell it briefly and it's not interesting.
No, it's not interesting, and it's a very confusing title. Yeah. A good title would have been The Siege of the North, That would have been a good title.
Oh,
yeah.
Very descriptive.
Siege of the North?
Yeah, right?
I'd watch that episode.
So anyway, the title of the episode really doesn't match the episode at all to start, but it comes in strong, and sort of like John was saying earlier, it is one of the more faithful of the episodes to the animation. I think it reminds me a little bit of the first episode that I was very excited about because it is very similar, but because I've gone through this journey, the changes that they've made are significant enough that it's still annoying to me. I think partially because they've changed significantly Aang and Katara's storylines and really made them have less punch and less, like, I'm just not interested in those storylines anymore. So you get Aang, Katara, and Sokka attacking a Fire Nation ship. I liked it. At least the beginning of it is really good.
We're getting a little bit of that teamwork. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that with like Sokka spotting from above before going off to do his thing. I'm like, yeah, this is good tactics. The bending is getting better. The CGI on the departure from the ship was real rough. Real rough. I was like, ooh, boy, we're straight back to PS2 graphics here. All right.
Yeah, seriously, John. Like, I noticed that as well. Like, you have this amazing sequence and then you end it with the shittiest CGI of the whole season.
I have made a discovery, which I hate to admit, but you want to know how to make all the bending fights look better? 1.2 times viewing speed during any of the bending fights is the right speed where it's like, oh, look at that. Yeah, the bending actually looks good at 1.25 speed. So yeah, that's what I did for this episode.
Paul, how do you like that fight scene at the beginning?
I thought it was pretty cool. There was a moment when Sokka says, I'm going to go do my own thing. And then we see Sky Bison with no one on it. And I thought that would be like a big deal. Like, oh my God, what's up with Sokka? Is he okay? And then they didn't care and they jumped on it. And then he jumped out of the blowing up part of the control tower.
Yeah.
That wasn't my favorite, but the rest of the fight was really cool.
And Sokka's thing is smashy. So yeah.
Yeah. This is the most heroic moment you'll see of Appa's. It's less than 2 seconds where he's actually holding a guy in his paws and drops him to his death.
Yep.
But that's it. That's all you get of Appa really in this whole episode. Again, I will never stop lamenting the fact that Appa is just a side note transportation character.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I've been wanting to see in all the other episodes is just scenes where the team is being a team and they're fighting Fire Nation, but we only get it this one time in this episode. Again, they break up throughout the rest of the episodes. You don't really see Team Avatar together very much.
Yeah, and they could have built up to this teamwork being awesome by having previous episodes. Like, we did see the one episode start with them running away from a bunch of Fire Nation. They could have, like, had that at the beginning, and then they actually fight back a little bit, but, like, get outclassed. And then finally, they'll take on a whole fucking ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because there's multiple episodes in the animation where you see Aang actually fight Fire Nation people on their ships. Like, it's not a new thing for Aang, but here you're like, oh, how did he learn how to take out the trebuchets? We'd already seen him in the animation do it, like, multiple times. And I think it's a very cool scene, but I think we could have seen more of it earlier. And then, of course, they fly away on Appa, and then they turn back and notice that, oh shit, there's a whole armada of ships coming this way. Hundreds of ships.
Just repeat that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like that scene in Troy. Did you ever watch that movie with Brad Pitt?
Oh, yeah.
A long time ago.
And they like zoom out and there's all these ships, but it makes sense here, but it didn't make sense in Troy because I was like, I don't think there would have been hundreds of ships back then. It would have been like maybe 100. But anyway.
I also had one point to make about offensive airbending. He said in the previous episode to the masters of the North Waterbenders, he said to them, airbending is a defensive thing. And then we see him slinging stuff around, throwing people off boats. Like, he's not that defensive.
No.
So I remember when we were discussing the different types of bendings early on in the trailer episode, that each bending has a specific martial art that it's based on. And you never see him do the twirly thing once. So that really annoys me, where he's like circling someone. And then they always contradict themselves in this show. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm a defensive bender. I just murder hearted all these Fire Nation with my airbending. Like, no, you're not. Like, your culture was a more pacifist culture, but it wasn't like you didn't use airbending to fight. We saw it at the Air Temple at the very first episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I will say for the Fire Nation ships, those are gorgeous. Like, we get more Fire Nation ship shots than we do of Appa, but at least they look damn beautiful. Like that.
They do look good.
The scenery is really good in this episode.
The scenery.
I feel like that's the one thing that they got right is the feel of.
Yeah.
They got all the cultures right. They did a good job at translating animation into real life and making it look really interesting. I have a similar compliment to them when it comes to the scene where all the waterbending women arrive, and like each woman has a unique and interesting Northern Water Tribe outfit that they're wearing. and it was beautiful. If you don't get the story right, who the fuck cares about everything else, right?
Yeah.
So Aang arrives back at the Northern Water Tribe wall and is basically talking to the leaders, and they tell them, well, you're out of luck because I don't know if we can beat this armada, basically.
And then they say that we should pull in our patrol ships when the armada's an hour or two away.
Yeah.
It's like how strategic are you guys?
How far are you patrolling that you can call them back and they also have not been destroyed by that
Yes.
by the Fire Nation yet? 10 feet out, 20 feet out? How far are we talking here?
Yeah, I also just think that the makers of this show don't understand waterbending. I don't think they've done a single scene of a wave with waterbending. And it doesn't matter how big and amazing your ships are. If you get every single waterbender on the wall and you all at the same time create a gigantic tsunami wave, it's gonna take out every one of those fucking ships.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you
Just
do
saying.
a water assault on the Water Tribe?
Yes.
Admiral Zhao obviously gets a lot of this episode to himself. Have you guys talked at all about how Ken Leung is doing like Agent Smith light for his accent and how fun it is? Like his voice, like you made a choice here, man, and I love it. Like it is a great villain voice the actor chose for this role.
We've talked about it a little bit. I think that he kind of has the really good toady, but also like ego
Yeah.
voice. He made it, you're right, he made a specific choice with that voice and it works.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of break it up a little bit, do some of the Zuko and Iroh storyline, and then go to Team Avatar, and then we'll meld the storylines. So let's talk about Zuko and Iroh. We get a scene where Iroh looks really badass in his armor. But he's trying to convince Zuko not to go on a solo mission to take the Avatar. I feel like this is a decent scene. Like, again, Zuko and Iroh are who are interesting in this show, so you're definitely invested in this moment, but it's pretty short.
Yeah.
And very tropey.
Yeah. Then the next scene with Iroh, because Zuko decides to go out on his own, is Zhao showing Iroh the war balloon, which was mentioned in, I think, the Omashu episode where Sokka helps the Mechanist create the war balloon, and we see it here. So any thoughts about the war balloon?
I'm a sucker for an airship, so I loved it. Loved seeing it. Like, I'm glad they kept it in.
Yeah, narratively, it makes the Omashu episodes matter because now the thing that was, kind of theoretical betrayal of, their own people now is also a dangerous threat to the water benders.
Yeah, I guess for me, I remember the Northern Air Temple episode where there was such a big buildup of the Mechanist and Sokka really like working on things, and you kind of actually see the balloon, which you don't really in the Omashu episodes. And then at the very end of the Northern Air Temple episode, you actually do see the balloon rise up, like blow up, and then it has the Fire Nation emblem on it, and you just like your heart drops in that moment because oh shit, like they have air power now. It's such a huge thing. Think about in wars, sort of there are moments in history when there was some sort of invention like bronze or riding a horse that just gave you so much of an advantage over the other forces, and this is one of those moments, you know?
Yeah.
But Zhao, of course, is, I feel like, I love that he has throughout this season made it part of his character to just talk a lot, to give these villain monologues, because he gives them to himself, like because he's talking to his scribe, basically.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, like building up to the moment at the very end where he's basically having a monologue and everybody's like, what the fuck? Why is this guy monologuing? But it makes sense with his character, which I appreciate that they've done this. So he's kind of doing it again here with Iroh.
I love how he's always trying to belittle Iroh, too. And Iroh's just stoically taking it because, from my perspective, it seems like he's just trying to slow him down and stop him without breaking any laws or rules from the Emperor. So it's just this weird back and forth of like, you should know better than that, General of the West.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny that he's like, I'm better than you, and I was just like, whatever.
It was a fun way to play the character. I mean, and that's how he was in the animation too. He was a blowhard the whole time. And so it definitely seems like the point you guys have made multiple times on previous episodes, like the side characters are gold. They're just, they're solid and fun, and so much more fun to watch than the main characters, which is a problem.
It is a problem, yeah. So then we get some scenes of the Fire Nation trebucheting the northern wall. Iroh kind of explains that the moon is the source of the waterbender's powers, so that the audience knows this. And then Zhao goes into some weird new lore that they decided to talk about, the ice moon. I'm like, why? Why do you call it the ice moon? Doesn't make any sense.
And they're always talking about the barrier between the spirit world is thinner now. It's like, does it ever get thicker? You're never talking about that. We're always making it thinner.
Right now, there's like literally no spirit world this day, you know? Like, I don't know. And then you get this flashback to Zhao and the Fire Sage. So this is bringing back that moment from our previous episode that you guys haven't listened to yet, where there's only one line in episode 7 where Zhao talks about make sure the Fire Sage gets all he needs. And this is kind of that moment, which was stolen from the episode, The Library. And also they show the scene of Zhao going to the library and why Wan Shi Tong, the owl spirit, is mad at him. So they've created a whole new thing here, which I guess I kind of understand why they're making it. How the hell would Zhao get to a desert and back? But again, it's a longer amount of time. Surprisingly, in the animation, like, I'm shocked. I'm just shocked that this all happens, by the way, in like less than a week, I feel like.
Yeah, the timing in this whole show is bad. Like, we haven't really said it. We've been keeping the narrative together so it makes sense. But this episode has been cut after cut after cut. You don't know where you are any given second. They're like, oh, they'll be here in an hour or two. And then they're already shooting their volleys in the next shot. Like, time does not matter in this show.
No. And like when Paul and I did The Last of Us, we loved it because it was about the journey. And this show, again, is not about Aang's journey at all. It's about, let's get to every cool scene that we liked in the animation in a way that we had to change things that don't make sense to change.
Yeah. Watching the live action kept reminding me, like, yeah, there are a lot of shots of them just riding Appa and like idly chatting on his back, and there are so many shots of that in the animation, or just silly little, you know, interstitials of Iroh and Zuko on the ship, or Iroh and Zuko in a village, or the Team Avatar in a village just having fun. And they've taken every bit of that fun out of this live action series. That's sad.
Yeah, I mean, and in some sense I can kind of understand it, but if they were replacing with something that was good, but they just replace it with stuff from season 2 that doesn't bring the plot forward. Like, there again was really no reason to have any of the Azula stuff in this season, and they bring it in for no reason. And then characters that were really cool in the animation, like Mei and Ty Lee, again, I will complain, they don't do shit. They're just standing there. So why have them? Why have them as part of this season?
I want to argue with you, but I have no point to make that would go against it.
If you don't agree with me, you're dumb. Anyway, so Iroh is finally told Zhao's true plan, which is he plans to murder the moon spirit. And Iroh is immediately like, what the fuck? Like, you can't murder spirits. That's going to ruin everybody's life, not just, you know, the waterbenders.
Yeah.
And I guess so, you know, in this moment that Iroh's got like a new mission, that he can't let Zhao complete the murdering of the moon spirit.
Well, he's kind of half-ass at it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to jump around too much, but it was funny at the end when like the dude is briefing the Fire Lord. Ozai wasn't like, yeah, I saw the moon turn red too. Everybody saw the moon turn red. It was kind of freaky, man. And the whole world went black and white. Yeah, like, yeah, it wasn't just in the north. Like, we all saw it. I know something happened. God.
I like how blasé he is in that scene. It's so ridiculous. Like, I wasn't expecting it to work anyway.
It wasn't the real plan.
Whatever. And then they show Zuko arrive behind the wall.
Mhm.
And I remember the scene of him getting to the Northern Water Tribe area as being really cool and suspenseful because he actually, so Iroh talks about the breath of fire.
Yep.
And that's the way that you can keep yourself warm in the cold weather. And so that scene, he's like swimming underwater, keeping himself warm with his fire bending. He almost drowns like 3 times. He follows this like seal and like keeps like going to breathe underneath the ice in these little air pockets. And then finally he makes it and he's like exhausted. And you're like, wow, Zuko, that's fucking badass. And here you just like see him arrive there. Again, no journey. You do not see his journey to get there, which is really badass.
Yeah, it was disappointing that it was like, oh, point A to point Z, done. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, he worked really hard. We keep hearing about how much he works, how hard he works, and how much he sacrifices. We just don't ever get to see it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to switch to Team Avatar.
Okay.
Sokka, we've already established, has given the information to the leaders about the Fire Nation ships coming. And then finally, in this short little moment here, we see Katara giving some heat to Paku. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, I'm going to go get some people to help. And she has gathered all of the waterbending women of the Northern Water Tribe. And she's like, look, we're all here to help. We all want to protect the waterbending nation. And Paku kind of finally gives in to her a little bit here. But again, I guess even in this moment where she shows that heat, I much prefer the storyline of Paku actually recognizing her strength in the moment when she challenges him. Whereas here, it just like takes so long and he still doesn't like really say it at the end of the episode. And in the Waterbending Master episode, he literally calls her a master in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And that is a big deal when somebody acknowledges you in that public way. And he never does that here. It's just so much more pathetic, I think, than the strong storyline that Katara had in the previous animation.
Also, it was very strange that it's like, Paco, I need to convince you to let all the women fight with us, all these waterbenders. It's like, there are like 70 of you. Just go start fighting.
Yeah,
what is he going to do?
Yeah.
Stop
one
you?
guy's permission.
Yeah.
Why does his realization have to be told in this way instead of more like halfway through the battle? He said, man, we're doing really good. Oh, all the women are fighting with us and kicking ass. Great. I was wrong. It was just a very, very old television way of telling this character story.
Also, shouldn't there be like a test to pass to be a master? Like, shouldn't they have like a university or something, a diploma?
Well, yeah, Paul, it is funny. He gives her the not well-trained people, the apprentices, which again makes no sense. Like, as the master, you should have the apprentices near you so you can protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like they're deliberately putting the weak people with our main characters so that when they die, they can feel guilty about it later.
Yes.
But it's still the older generation's fault. Like,
Yeah.
Paku should have been protecting them, not Katara. Anyway.
That's a good point.
So then we switch again to Yue and Sokka, and goddamn, Yue's wig. I cannot, she's in a scene, all I can see is her fucking disgusting ass wig. Like, you had one job, costume department. You're doing it. You're making everything look amazing. And then you're like, janky ass white wig. Let's put that on her head.
Yeah. But I mean, this has been a Netflix problem for years, hasn't it? Like, not just streaming, but specifically Netflix seems to have a major bad wig department.
Wig problem.
Yeah. Like, it's like, all right, guys. All right, fine.
Like, what show? I'm trying to think of.
I just, it sure seems like there were some other Netflix ones. I don't know if it goes back as far as like Orange is the New Black, but I know that I've heard wig discourse before about Netflix shows. Where it's like, this is just, yeah, it's so bad. And also so strange that it sure seems like her dad really understands the love triangle and is just like, I'm just going to choose who wins this love triangle here and now. Sokka, you win. Go with her. Like, it's strange. It's a really strange scene.
Also, it's sort of the reverse of Last of Us because it's an escort mission, but he's helping someone older and more capable than himself.
Yeah.
And he
right.
fails to save her, so...
Yeah, right. Well, I think, John, the problem is in the previous episode, Paul and I are like, oh, so this was that love triangle. Oh, you mean there isn't really a love triangle? Like, she isn't still engaged to this guy, and he's kind of milquetoast anyway. So, like, Sokka doesn't really have that, like, fight to compete with this guy because the guy's just like, I already gave up.
Yeah.
Like, so this moment doesn't even really matter because him choosing Sokka doesn't mean anything.
Nope.
Because Han is like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And they could have made it a little bit interesting by having Han survive the fight and then be like, you failed to save Yui. That's the only thing I asked of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I already talked about this, but Paku sends Katara his students to help. And then they call her Master Katara. And I'm like, that line should have been done by Paku first.
You know,
Yes.
someone who actually has the credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Aang, okay, again, contradicting themselves, their own rules. Aang's standing there and suddenly Karak just shows up like, hey, what's up, Aang? Bam! Doesn't have to meditate now, apparently, to
Nope.
see avatars. Why didn't they just show up randomly any other time? Oh, it must be because the spirit world is weak here. Well, he still needed to meditate in the other,
In the forest.
the forest.
Yeah.
So changing the rules up on us again. And
Also, he says, like, my knife is finally near the homeland. Like, where the fuck did it go for all these centuries?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, can we get any knife backstory here? Like, yeah.
the subtle knife from Philip Pullman's
Yeah,
A much better knife story.
his Dark Materials. I was like, oh, now we've got the subtle knife here. Like,
Yeah.
break into the spirit world with it. So they're making their way to the spirit oasis, and Momo has his hero moment where he rescues a baby kid, which is really sweet, and of course gets hit by rocks and is dying. Oh, that's right. So they decide to go to the oasis because Momo's
Yeah.
dying. And again, there really isn't any point of the animals being there except for these few little these moments.
Momo moments.
And Momo moments. But that's how they get there. They decide to go
Yeah.
there to save Momo.
And that spring definitely has Giardia in it now after healing Momo. Like, oh yeah. No, people cannot drink from that water now for decades after this without filtering or boiling.
Also, how come Momo didn't get a shitty wig after that? If that's how it worked for Yui.
That would have been hilarious. Right before Yue steps in, he's like, oh, wait, and just chucks Momo in like, there, the moon's back.
Oh, no. Like, or the moon spirit doesn't wake up because there's still just a sliver of the moon spirit in Momo. So her sacrifice is in vain.
Oh.
And Momo's just like eating an avocado in the corner. Like, what?
I didn't do anything.
That's a good point, John. Oh, man. Momo is part moon spirit.
Yep.
So again, Paul, there's a little bit of a callback here because if we're going by the animation, Gran is from the Northern Water Tribe. And so if she went to the Spirit Oasis, she would have access to seeds and know about trees and stuff.
That's a good point.
So, but, you know,
Yeah.
we haven't heard that Gran in the live action is from the Northern Water Tribe, but whatever. So Yue heals Momo, and now we're going to kind of meld the two storylines again. We have Sokka and Yue just healed Momo, and they see the Fire Nation war balloon come down, and they hide. And Zhao wants Iroh to sort of help him find what's the two spirits in this oasis. I mean,
Completely
it's pretty
unnecessarily,
obvious.
because it's like, it's those fish right
You
there.
know, the ones that are perfect.
The ones that I
yin-yang.
saw first, and yeah, I'm definitely going to say that's them. Like, okay, I guess Iroh didn't need to be here.
And once again, I feel like, I don't know why in the live action, I feel like Iroh doesn't do enough. Because I remember not feeling this way in the animation. I don't know why. But I'm like, Iroh, you had like so many chances to stop Zhao from doing anything, like right here.
Mm-hmm.
Just kill him right here. Like, stop him right now. Like, you could do that. You could take out all these Fire Nation people on your own. You could kill them all.
Yeah.
Go back in the war balloon and be like, they ambushed us. I don't know what happened.
Also, the water tribe just let them float the air balloon into their most sacred garden without anyone spotting them and like waiting for them to land and shooting at them.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, they're not.
I wrote, you could do better.
Yes. Yeah.
And waterbenders, you could do better. There are so many examples in the animation of cool shit that waterbenders do, and you just don't see it here. I'm shooting a jet stream. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
You could shoot like ice crystals. I mean, like ice arrows out of your hand, like anything.
Mist, heavy mist, like rust ships away super fast, all kinds of stuff.
Ooh, that'd be
You get
cute.
waterbenders and airbenders working together. You could rust those ships out in probably like 5 minutes each,
Oh, hell yeah.
Cool.
Get salt water going.
That'd be a really neat one.
And if you're a really good bender, you could have like an ice ball with steam inside, so you like burn someone's face when it hits them.
Nice.
Yeah. Or like create, instead of these splashes of water that Katara uses
I
on
know.
people, literally a water whip. Like if you create a really small, thin line of water, it will literally water slice.
Yeah. Yeah, the impacts from her waterbending are never there. It's just like, you're just splashing people. He's falling over because he's been told to fall over because there's a fake CGI water hitting him, but it's not. We all know how hard water can be, how heavy water is, and they just forgot it when doing all the bending in these series.
Learn physics, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, physics. And also cool shit. Like there's one scene in here where she gets the water whip that actually like goes around Zuko's leg. Like, do more of that. Water tentacles, anything. So Aang arrives at the oasis because he's seen this vision of Karak who tells him he needs to go there. And what does he do, Paul? Because you've complained about this in the previous episodes.
Basically nothing. He's the worst, most slow motion airbender ever. Like, sloths are faster than him. He could have just whipped that bag away from Zhao, saved the fish. He could have pushed Zhao. Like, I understand that narratively he has to fail so that Zhao can succeed for everything to happen. Like, I'm not doing like a, DiCaprio should have gotten on the door too thing here. They just should have implemented it well.
And also, he tries to appeal to Zhao.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you're going to kill the world. Like, our Aang from the animation does not do that. Like, he appeals in a way that is not so ineffectual.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to appeal to Zhao.
It does not work.
Does not work. Oh, and I'm kind of skipping, I think, forward from the scene where Aang and Katara are confronted by Zuko.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And so, again, the party splits up. So if we were to think about what happens in the animation, a lot of the spirit world stuff's been like fucked with so much that I don't want to go into all of it again. But originally he goes into the spirit world at the oasis with Katara there to find the ocean and the moon spirits to get advice from them. That's the first episode of the Siege of the North. And so she's there to protect him. And then Zuko arrives. This is in the animation. He arrives. And there is one of the most badass fights ever there. And so they've transitioned that to on the way to the oasis, Katara and Aang are confronted by Zuko and she stays behind again. So she's not actively protecting Aang, which was always kind of a fun part of Katara, is that her badass spirit, like it was always her kind of protecting him until he became the Avatar in the Avatar state. And even in later seasons, she's the one that she saves him so many times.
Oh, yeah.
She is like not the true hero, but like she's a huge hero character. So anyway, she stays behind and Aang goes on to the oasis.
Yeah, and Aang's all like, go easy. And then Zuko's like, oh, you're talking to me, aren't you? And he's like, no, I'm talking to Katara. It was very lazily written.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole all the confrontations, the face-to-face trying to talk people down between Aang and anybody in this episode. It's like, just stop, this is so bad.
And so it's funny because we have all these complaints, but I really loved when Zuko calls her a little peasant and he has his little temper tantrum in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, Dallas Liu is the rock star of this show.
Yeah.
And so I guess we could just talk about that fight scene now since we're in it. So Katara stays and she fights Zuko, and it is a good fight. Like, this is one of the best waterbending fight scenes we've seen. It's fast, or at least faster than it's been. She uses like a water tentacle. She actually uses these ice spike wall to like keep him away from her, which was new and interesting to me. It was almost like she was almost about to stab him but decided not to, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yep.
I like that.
And she captures him. She traps him.
She does trap him.
It was really fun. Like I said, I watched these at 1.25 speed, and I was like, man, at this speed, this looks like the animation. It is at the speed we came to expect from the animation. And it was a good fight. It was a good fight. Choreography is good. The effects are decent. So, yeah.
I kind of miss the moment. So you get so much payoff in the animation from like the first season to some of the last moments in the animation of the third season. So in this fight scene in the animation, she does this really cool thing where she's like swirling her hands around themselves, kind of like she's making a ball in her hands. And then in the fight in the animation, she like literally creates a ball of ice around Zuko. So she freezes him in it, which is a classic Katara thing that like none of the other waterbenders really do, is actually completely encase someone in ice, which you see is like one of her major moves that she uses.
It's
and
her finishing move.
Like,
it's her, it is her final move.
You don't really see that in this. So they're fighting. And then there's a big fireball that comes down, smashes the temple that they're fighting in, and they both get knocked out. So then we can kind of transition back to the Oasis scene where Aang is being ineffectual. He's confronting them. Zhao's waxing poetical about how he's gonna murder the moon spirit. He has the moon spirit captured in a bag, very much similar to the animation. Iroh is kind of walking around trying to take advantage of some kind of situation that might come up. So Iroh makes a move, shoots fire at him. He drops the bag. And again, this is what Paul was talking about, where Aang is the slowest airbender in the world. It's also slow motion too, so they slowed down an already slow moment.
Yes.
And he's creating an air cushion to lift the bag. I'm like, I just like...
It's a spirit fish. It can handle a little rough treatment. Just drop the bag in the water, Aang. It can handle it.
Shoot it.
Yeah,
Just
he needed a
shoot it into the
special
water.
knife to even kill it.
And so slow motion, Zhao's like, no, and he uses his knife and he stabs the fish. So in the animation, it was kind of an interesting difference where Zhao is actually kind of being convinced by Aang, and he lets the fish back into the oasis water. And then last minute, he kind of goes into a fit of rage, I think because somebody says something to him, and then he kills the fish in the pool. But we see the moon turn red and then disappear.
I liked this effect. I liked this Avatar Sin City couple minutes of scenes we got here. Just like the red flashing with the black and white, the battle going on. Like, I enjoyed the look of the chaos that followed after he stabbed the moon spirit. I think they did that pretty well.
For sure. I think that was a really cool part of the animation that they translated well into the live action. And I think in the animation, like Princess Yue, one of the things that they don't really show very often in the live action is that everybody from different nations usually has similar eye colors, and the waterbenders all have blue eyes. And in the animation, when everything goes black and white, Yue's eyes are the only thing that are color. And so it was kind of like a really neat way for you to realize that, oh, she's different. And in the animation, Iroh is still with them in the Oasis, because they skip this whole part of the animation where Zuko steals Aang away from Katara. He drags him out into the wastes of the ice, and then Team Avatar finds him, takes Aang back. And so then Zuko's not actually part of that scene, and Iroh's still there, and he looks at Yue in the animation and is like, oh, you have a bit of the moon spirit in you. And you know he can see that because he can see it in her eyes, right? Her eyes are the only thing that have color. All of that subtlety is gone here. But they do actually, I think you can kind of see that she has blue eyes.
Her eyes are still showing bright blue, even when everything else is black and white in the live action.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. I think showing the destruction of war, obviously it was way more realistic than in the animation where people were dying and falling into the water after losing their bending.
Although one thing really kind of bugged me is that, okay, they're the Fire Nation. They have probably trained on how to fight against different types of benders and how to fight against non-benders. Mm-hmm. They should be doing fighting against non-benders now and not doing hand-to-hand fighting. They should be standing back and shooting fire at the
just walls of
people.
Fire at everybody.
Yeah.
Just literal scorched earth now that there's nobody to bend against their powers. Yeah, that's
exactly.
a good point.
Well, you got to wonder, though, how many of those fighters of the firebenders are all firebenders. So, like,
yeah, that's true.
Just like the water nation, there are some that are just warriors and some that are benders.
But they could still go ranged. They could shoot arrows.
Sure, yeah. Exactly. I mean, I agree with you that it's dumb that the next scenes are then just hand-to-hand combat.
Kind of. Not without being kind of brutal, though. Like the attack scenes and the walls collapsing, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of people dying right now.
Yeah.
And they're not, we're not seeing blood, but they're definitely PG-13 dying on screen. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's true. Way to keep it positive about the good things, John.
Yeah.
Aang is at the oasis and he sort of flashbacks to all the things that the previous avatars have told him in the previous episodes, and then goes into the avatar state because everybody's like, we can't do anything to fight back, and he's like,
no.
Yeah, he's like, no, I can do something. That's exactly what he sounds like, by the way. And so he goes into the oasis and takes on the form of the ocean spirit.
Now, I have a question about this. He went into avatar state in a calm and emotionless way, right? Or he was able to be calm. I thought the whole point of mastering the four elements is he needed that in order to be in control like this.
I think part of it is that you're supposed to believe that the ocean spirit possessed him basically by that moment and is using Aang's spiritual power to become even stronger. Technically, the ocean and moon spirits right now are mortal, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they can be killed. So he has to use Aang's connection to the spirit world and his avatar state.
But the activating it itself, I thought, was Aang's choice, and I thought he shouldn't have that ability yet.
I think you're right that that's what it seems like. So the only way that I can justify that he's doing it, because they're breaking rules again. You're right. They're breaking the rules where he's like, yeah, I'm just going to become in the avatar state calmly because I know how to control it now, apparently.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, oh, it's just the ocean spirit taking him.
And that's what I took from it, because the water spirit is glowing next to him while he's in the avatar state. Like its head lights up too. And so I was like, figure like, okay, he is offering himself up to the water spirit to become this vengeful water monster and just giving himself over. Godzilla. It's Godzilla. It's absolutely Godzilla.
I love the show for many reasons, the original animation, because they have songs and music that cue you to certain things. So you've heard the Avatar State song. Mm-hmm. So they start that song here, and then they stop it, and then they go into their own shitty musical score. And I'm like, it's literally a Godzilla score as he's like walking through.
Yes.
I had to go back. I'm like, what is happening? I was like, I need to listen to the music that they used in the animation. And I did. And I was like, it is so powerful. That scene is made so much more powerful because there's it's like sounds like you're in a church almost. And I think you're supposed to feel that way because this is like a spiritual moment for the water tribe people. And as the ocean spirit is like smashing things, smashing all the Fire Nation people, all of the waterbenders bow to the ocean spirit and they don't die. It's sort of like a Passover moment for the waterbenders because they did the right thing when the vengeful spirit comes through. And it's like, oh, I mean, like, it's like these vocals, these female vocals, like really steal the show and the animation.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like he's taken everybody to church. But here it's just like, raw, I'm a giant monster. Like, I'm just destroying everybody. It just didn't have the same, like, finale feel that it had in the animation.
True.
There's another line that's kind of important for something I'm going to say later. One of the last things Aang says before going into this state is, he says, "This isn't my time or my world." And he says that to Sokka and Yui, and Katara is nowhere around, presumably unconscious at this moment.
Oh, yes, because
she
there
lost
is a scene
somebody.
later that she acts like she heard that.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. You can't call out the show for every inconsistency. Come on.
We'd be here for days. And then all of a sudden, the people who did see Aang transition are like, oh, well, there's no Aang anymore. There's no more Avatar. It's just forever gone now.
So
I know, they're
strange.
like, he'll never return. He's just been, like, taken over by the ocean spirit. And I feel like in the animation, it was more just like he's become rage. So there's nobody that can bring him out of the rage moments. And that's why Katara's relationship with him was so special, is because he had an emotional connection to her, a worldly connection to Katara that would always ground him when he was in these moments with the Avatar spirit.
So I would like to ask the group a hypothetical question. If Katara would be unable to bring him back from this, what do you think the future would look like? Would he be like an old man in Avatar mode, like feeding off of the ocean's whatever food it provides him to keep it self-sustained?
Is this presupposing that Yue doesn't sacrifice herself and bring back the moon spirit?
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like where would he go afterward? Just, I mean, I would say rampage through the entire Fire Nation. Because, I mean,
That
they
sounds
can
kinda
keep
fun.
saying that Aang isn't there, there's no Avatar. It's like, yeah, well, it sure seems to know who to attack pretty
Yeah.
well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think basically it would have been extremely tragic because Aang would have used the spirit of the ocean to genocide all of the Fire Nation. So once the ocean spirit was satisfied with his revenge, might just release Aang, and then Aang would be left with the tragedy of
I just did the thing that happened to me.
being an Ozai.
Yeah.
Or a Sozin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Tragedy. Then what would happen is he would take the subtle knife and cut a hole in the fabric of the universe, and then he would walk the spirit realm the rest of his life. That's my version.
I love it. And he'll be fighting Ko.
Just lay down in the spirit world, be alive to suffer.
All the other spirit, yeah. He's talking to the other spirits. He's like, man, my moon spirit girlfriend got killed. And the other spirit's like, that's rough, buddy. That's rough. And then just on with it, like, yeah, none of us like the moon anyway. Like, we're fine. So
He's actually in a love triangle
Yeah.
with Sokka now
Yeah.
that lasts
Yeah.
centuries.
you ever think you're better off without the moon, man? Just saying.
So the ocean spirits causing havoc, and Zhao was like, "Yay, God, I gotta get out of here!" And so he's like running, and Zuko sees him, and Zuko and Iroh are also running away.
So this is another complaint of mine, is that everyone just magically teleports to wherever they
They
need
just
to
meet
be.
each other.
Yeah.
He's so well. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, there you are.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there you are. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in the animation, it's just Zuko who sees Zhao. And there's a really poignant scene that, again, is skipped here where they're fighting. All the same things kind of happen while they're fighting here. But the ocean spirit sees Zhao and recognizes him as the murderer of the moon and grabs him. And then Zuko is like, you see him be like, oh shit, I really hated you, but that's a shitty way to die. So it's kind of like one of those tropey scenes where he's like, take my hand and I'll rescue you from the ocean spirit. And Zhao's so prideful that he doesn't take his hand. And so actually the ocean spirit gets his revenge on Zhao, not Iroh saving Zuko.
That's so much better. Why didn't they do that?
I don't know. And then again, you are clued into Zuko's empathy in that way instead of like all these other ways that they've shown you that didn't need to be there.
Because instead of that, which is also a little tropey, yes, they went with the other trope of he punches the wall out instead of the person.
Which still, again, is not as interesting.
Exactly.
But I guess it would have taken more CG to make the other thing happen.
Yeah.
In the fight, Zhao reveals that Azula's behind everything, and that makes Zuko sad and mad.
Ozai was never going to take you back. Like, we all knew that, but finally someone told Zuko that.
Yeah.
He's just figuring this out now, apparently. And we kind of talked about it already, but Katara sees Aang in the center of the ocean spirit, Godzilla, and she starts calling out to him. First of all, how's Aang going to hear her calling out to him in the raging waters? But apparently he has superhero hearing. And Paul, why don't you describe this scene since you have something to say about it?
It was...
That was it. That sigh. That was the entire description.
I can't, Marcy.
It's so bad. So she basically says, like, we need you, I need you, like, you do have a place in society, and like,
you're my family. And then what line does she say that, like, reminds us that she wasn't in the scene where she was supposed to hear something?
It was something along the lines of, like,
it is your time, it is your world.
Yeah,
there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you notice the CG Aang looked like he's 25 years old? I was like, oh, you aged like 20 years in the amount of time that I guess it makes sense. If he was not bald, his hair would have gone completely white after this moment.
Yes.
With his performance, like what you've been talking about with the lack of Appa in this season, I saw a video online with like him, only it's a video from one of those rug makers online, and she like makes him an Appa head horn rug, and he's like, oh cool. It's like, yeah, that's about as excited as you can get because you don't get any scenes with Appa in this series. Like everybody else would be thrilled, but he's just kind of like, oh cool. Like, yep, that right there sort of just locked in what is wrong with this. And same thing with him is like every time he has a speaking part, it's a really rough scene, and then they're just like, okay, now we need him to be an avatar or a water spirit or talk to other avatars more than like actually relying on the character of Aang as he should be. And it's sad because he is a good character.
It is sad. Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And they don't give him any depth. He's just the vessel for other cooler characters.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up because truly we care the most about Aang. It's cool to see all the other avatars, but you only care about him meeting them because you love Aang and you want him to help the world and grow and be able to take on this really scary thing that he has to take on, Ozai, at the end. And you don't love him in this show. You're not shown that he's a person that you should care about because he's got depth and he cares about his friends and he is able to convince people to do things. That's why it's so funny to see him be so ineffectual in this, where like he does know people. He does know, like we've talked about in the animation, you see that he's made friends in all these different places and he doesn't understand why there's division because in his time, everybody got along. He had friends in all the nations. And so that's why he is able to kind of see past all these prejudices when other people can't. So yeah, it's sad that they have really ruined the main character of the show and created the main character of the show as the bad guy.
Yeah.
Bad good guy.
Yeah.
And then the other kind of lame thing, going back to Katara talking to Aang, who's like a quarter mile away, then it's suddenly Yui talking like as a narrator, like her voice is overlaid over the Katara looking at Aang's scene, talking about what she has to do. And she says that thing about like, they have to become mortal, every once in a while because it's worth the risk. It's like, but we just saw what the risk is, and that's a lifetime of misery and looking for your partner who's dead that you'll never find. Like, is it worth that risk?
And yeah, like, should you have published your schedules publicly like that? Like, just choose a random day. Nobody would know.
Yeah, and have a secret service.
Yeah.
Secret ocean spirit service.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wouldn't you think that there'd be at least 20 waterbending guards there to protect the spirits when they're actually in mortal form?
You would think so.
Yeah, so I guess this brings up, let's go to Yue. She's at the Oasis again with the wig. I can't stop looking at it. She's again telling us the story instead of showing us the story. We get a makeout scene for Sokka. Oh, surprise, surprise. Like, and then she uses waterbending to freeze him with a thin sheet of ice that apparently he can't move his feet from. And then she gives up her moon spirit self to the moon spirit to bring it back to life. And I am just not even moved at all by this scene, whereas in the animation, you're very moved by her sacrifice because she's sacrificed her whole life, whereas in this one, she didn't sacrifice anything. She didn't have to marry that dude. Like, she didn't have to become anything. She didn't have to become the spiritual leader. She was already that. She's already competent. Like, Yue had a lot of things that she was fighting against, the traditions of the Northern Water Tribe, which she just kind of defies those and nobody gives a fuck in this. So what is she's sacrificing her life. Good for her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Your wig is impossible to not look at.
Yeah, it was weird to just see her hair floating in the pond after she disappeared. Like, just the hair floating there. Like, that was a choice. That was...
Oh, that would have been great. Like, finally, my hair is normal again. So Katara's appeal to Aang brings him back to her after the moon spirit has returned to the sky. The next scene is basically them just walking through the destruction. They see the death of the apprentice that Pakku had sent to Katara and Han, the lover boy. And Aang flies away again. Again, he's running away.
Always running away.
I feel like he has made not a single revelation in the last several episodes. He's still on this kick of like, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. I don't remember Aang being this way.
Yeah. I mean, he does take the weight of the world on his shoulders in the animation a lot, but it's a lot for this whole season. Like, man, you can have some down, and that we don't get to see the lighthearted times to offset it. They kept all of the weight of the world and didn't give us the fact that he's a kid having fun on this journey too.
Technically, I just realized Aang does do waterbending for the first time ever.
As the ocean spirit.
The ocean spirit.
Yeah.
He makes that big wave. Good job, waterbender.
So Aang flies away. Sokka talks about Yue with the leader of the tribe. And
Yue's dad, right?
With Yue's dad, yeah. But they're both just sort of like, okay.
She was going to do it. She does. She's strong that way.
Your daughter just died, you fuck wad. Like, show some emotion other than like milk toast.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
And then Pakku and Katara talk, and he kind of admits that she's good at what she does, but like in an offhand way. And he does call her a master at the end, finally.
Yeah.
But I feel like it wasn't as strong as it could have been. Like, he could have just like backed her up completely, but it just feels like a letdown. And again, I notice that they don't address Katara's necklace at all in this season. We don't know why she has this necklace. I don't think they once tell you that it's her mother's. And we do get the scene where she receives the water from the oasis from Master Pakku.
Yeah. She gets the water boy Arctic cold water. And I mean, hopefully, because that's like her healing water for the rest of the animation, right? That's what she uses to, or no, that's what she tries to heal Zuko with. Yeah. Okay.
That's a special healing water. So she almost uses it to heal Zuko's face.
That's right.
But then she gets interrupted by Aang before she can do that. And then later in that same episode, she needs it for Aang. But yeah, it is a very special type of water. The other thing that I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's important to bring up here because kind of they cut to Zuko, but I want to get to Aang where he's like crying. And Iroh has a scene and Aang has a scene where they both are like crying and literally the tears are like hanging out in their eyeballs, and then they it's almost like a zoom in on the face so that you could see the track of the one tear down a person's face. And like, I don't know how often you just like cry one single tear down your face. Like never.
It's never happened. No.
No.
And it's just like such a perfect tear that you like know it's a fake tear.
Yeah.
Just so dumb.
Just glycerin sitting there waiting, like, hold it. Okay, now twitch your eyebrow, go. And yeah. And then for me, just the whole end of the episode just is downhill note, downhill note, downhill note. Like, all right, the Fire Lord sure seems like he didn't expect anybody to come back from this massive military action he sent to the north. Like, then why did you send it?
You got to sacrifice the weak to get strong.
That's the thing is like, oh, okay, they actually did a nice callback. It's like, hey, every 100 years you can brush off the same military plan, use it again. Worked for us to kill the airbenders, worked for us to capture the Omashu. Like, yep, we went back to the classics. He did a big attack and he captured his real target. So it's a tactic that they set up in the very first scene of this entire season.
I guess I don't understand it though, because it's not like the waterbenders from the Northern Tribe ever fucking leave there. So who's gonna know that they're being attacked? Like the Earthbender Omashu's city is in the middle of a continent. How is the waterbending tribe going to help them? They haven't been working together. It doesn't make any sense that it's actually a distraction because the earthbending nation doesn't know what's happening.
They're just like, hey, the moon went dark for 5 minutes. It was really weird. Yeah.
Exactly. So the official end of the Aang and Katara storyline is that they once again have to convince him that we're a family. Like, you can do this. Now you have to learn waterbending. I guess we got to go also learn earthbending and stuff.
And let's talk about food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One single joke.
Yep.
And you're just like, oh, shouldn't he have been learning waterbending already? Anyway. And what's funny is they do this like dramatic scene with Azula taking over Amashu. And you're like, okay, finally, the episode's done. And then they do another quick cut to Ozai, and it's like such a not as dramatic and cool ending. Like, at least end it on the cool reveal that Azula took over Amashu. But no, we have to go to a boring planning session, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. I was getting flashbacks of the Peter Jackson multiple endings in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Return of the King. It's just like, all right, how many times are we going to end this episode?
But at least like you're invested and you love those characters.
Oh, yeah,
so,
fully.
Like,
yeah.
100. I'd take 100 endings. Give me more endings. Yeah. So Sozin's Comet's coming back, and that's the end of the episode. So you learn that he's going to use that same comet to take the rest of the world.
I have a sci-fi idea that's in the Avatar Airbender world. Okay, so this comet's coming every 100 years. They could basically get like 6 airbenders, 6 earthbenders, 6 firebenders, make a rocket, go blow that thing up Armageddon style, and then they wouldn't have that comet anymore.
Or maybe they could transport there somehow through the spirit world.
The comet's connected to the bending spirits somehow. So
Yeah, exactly.
Comet heist.
I don't know if I'm going to review the second season on here.
Oh,
I
man.
feel like I can't do it.
We want to talk about stuff we like.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, they have a show that they're imitating. They have a story that they're copying and just remaking, and they can't help but just get in their own damn way again and again and again with this series. And it's like, all right, you guys even have some of the original creators here, and they can't help but get in their own way. Like, did you have a problem? Has anybody ever said, oh, the way you told the animation story wasn't good? You should tell it live action, but take out all the parts that make us like the main characters. That was the part that really ruined the show.
the original creators actually did divorce themselves from this show.
Okay. I can see why.
Not quite
Yeah.
Ellen
Yeah.
Smithy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we can't give the green light to this. And they're like, too bad. And we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So they left.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's maybe take a minute to just say what they did well in this. I think they had great actors. Like, the people looked like who they should be. The set designs were gorgeous. The costuming, except for that one wig, were pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had a lot of good things going on. Maybe you have other thoughts of what's good.
Yep. Every technical aspect of the show is good. The performances and the writing
Yeah.
are not. Yeah.
I mean, I think the actors, I'll disagree with you a little bit, but I definitely feel like the side characters, one-note characters were all like 100% on point. The looks of all of those characters were great. I mean, like you said, the looks of the actors that are playing the main characters fit for me. I loved that they actually did, I think, do well with Appa's CGI, which I think would be really hard to do because he is a fuzzy, cute character, but they just never used him. And Moma, I thought, was decent too. So I felt like all the CGI stuff was really interesting to look at and done well. The Zuko and Iroh storyline is amazing. And like you said previously, I think we should just make a Zuko and Iroh cut and like not even bother watching Aang's storyline because there's really no point to watching who's supposed to be the main character. Like Zuko and Iroh are the main characters, those people that you care about. The actor who plays Iroh is amazing. And I think Ozai is a really good actor. What's his name?
Daniel
Kim. He looked amazing. He added a little bit of depth to the character that wasn't there before, like in the flashback scenes that we saw in our favorite episode, episode 6. So there is some good in the show. It's just that I don't understand how you can have like the perfect arc created for you. Literally, you just have to like do what you're told, basically.
Yeah.
Just why are you rewriting something that was written 100% gold, you know? They did, and they did it poorly. So you can't fix, even if you have a decent actor, if you have shit writing, that actor is gonna sound bad. If you have an amazing actor, they can elevate a little bit, which Daniel Day Kim did, and Uncle Iroh actor, I can't remember his name. But the kids, like, they're new actors, so they're not great, and they were given shit lines, so they seem like they're bad actors because of it.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know. You were so excited at the start of this whole thing.
I thought like the first episode really, I think, because again, they stuck close to the original storylines in the first episode and in episode 6 and kind of here. And I would say that my second watching, I did like this last episode better than when I first watched it, but it's still hard to watch. It's still not a good episode. But I did watch a show that I fucking love. And guess what? Next episode is going to be all about Fallout. And
Yes.
I loved that
It's so good.
series.
It's so good.
It's so amazing. It's so good. Hopefully you didn't drop my show because it was so depressing that you don't want to wait until Fallout, because I'll be funny and I'll like it. I promise.
And now I get to start watching Fallout.
Yeah.
I know. So, John, why don't you tell us about your stuff?
Yeah, I'm on a Star Trek show called Open Pike Night. It's about Strange New Worlds, one of the current running live action Star Trek series. It was a episode review show, but that it turned into an interview show with creators and producers and actors and all kinds of technical folk who make the show happen. And it is a pretty fun ride. For our patrons there for Open Pike Night right now, we are doing episodes reviewing Star Trek Discovery season 5 because we keep getting screeners for all the other Star Trek shows too. So if you're patron of the show, you get to hear us talk about that without the call-ins. But if you like Star Trek Strange New Worlds and you want to have your voice heard, go to openpike.com or find Open Pike on any social media and you'll be able to join the conversation if you want. Our current episode is an interview with Martin Quinn, who is the new version of Scotty for a new generation. And next up, we have Bruce Horak returning, who played Hemmer and the singing Klingon in the musical episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was amazing. His K-pop
Yep.
song is so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him about that. Plus, he got to play a zombie a couple episodes before that, so yeah, it's going to be fun to have him back. We met him in Vegas and had got to have a little chat, so it'll be fun to actually get down behind the microphone again with him.
Also for me, I'm doing a episode on John and Alex Hate Stuff on the movie Love and Monsters. We just recorded that. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out, but I got some classic Marcia jokes in there about penises and
poop.
Yep. It was about poop. So, I'll have to prompt Paul to talk more about poop lately. No, just kidding.
Note to self.
More.
Does
poop.
Aang even poop?
So John and Alex Hate Stuff podcast, I like them because they are the ones that convince me, just because you can hate stuff and still talk about it. It is important sometimes to try to find the things that maybe people are doing wrong and what they're doing right, which is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So even if you don't like something, you can still analyze it and try to find the good in it.
Especially because it's been like 20 episodes since they actually talked about something they hated. So...
It's true. It's true.
It's called John and Alex Hate Stuff, but a lot of stuff they talk about they really like.
Yeah.
It's a fun show.
Yeah, it is a fun show. And I love John. He's my funny crack.
Yeah.
I think he's really funny. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Idle Ride.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking very forward to the Fallout series too. I can't wait to hear you guys discuss it. So good.
I'll have to have you on for it.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe
yes, please.
Cam too, because I know he actually played Fallout.
Yep.
But we'll see. He has to actually watch it.
Yeah.
So.
And play it. Yeah, Cam, go play Fallout 4. I don't think he's even played Fallout 4. It's been 9
Really?
years, Cam. Go play Fallout 4. Or if he has, it's been a while.
His wife would kill him if he did more stuff that doesn't involve family. All right. Well, if you want to check out Idle Ride, we're on any place that you can get podcasts. And if you want to see us on social media, it's Idle Ride or Idle Ride Podcast, anywhere that you get on social media. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.